WNBC FM, New York.
This is Ben Grauer at Times Square on New Year's Eve. We're standing on the 4th floor, room 408 of the Hotel Claridge, along with my colleague of NBC News, Jim Harriott. And the occasion, of course, is the annual renewal of one of the amazing sociological phenomenons of America, Times Square in New York. For some reason, Jim, I don't know if you know the answer, I don't, through the years, from a tradition that started about 50 years ago, New Yorkers celebrate New Year's Eve by congregating here in this extended open space that runs from Times Square down at 42nd Street up to where Broadway and 7th Avenue narrow at 48. On good nights, we get 40, 50, 75,000 people on this wet, dreary, 40 degrees, sleazy rain, and a little mixture of snow night. We don't have anywhere near that many, Jim. About how many as you look out the window, would you guess?
I would say somewhere about 25,000, perhaps a little less, perhaps a little more.
Well, let's see.
They're jamming in up the street. I was down there a few minutes ago.
Let's get a better look. We'll open a window here. And the noise flows in. Let's see. Down there at 42nd, I see lots of asphalt, which is unusual.
But up that way, see how jammed it is up the other way, up Broadway.
To 45th and 6th.
More people coming in all the time. The searchlight is in place, and it sweeps up to the now famous ball atop what is now the Allied Chemical Tower.
It used to be the Times Tower, and up there, that ball, which is on a stick of about 100 feet high, will start sliding at 20 seconds, 30 seconds before the hour, right?
Right, and listen to that crowd. They're all warming up, and I think every one of them has a horn, and most of them are flat.
Oh, look, the searchlight has hit one of the groups of kids, and they're waving their hands and jumping and making a sort of a snake dance all together. The cops are holding them back. There are lots of Commissioner Leary's policemen here. I've noticed something every year, Jim, as I watch these through the years. It's 25 years or more. The crowd gets younger every time. As I fought my way into the Claridge tonight, because there already was quite a crowd, I noticed that 50% of them were under 20 years old. They were teenagers. And you don't see any of the sedate married couples out for a stroll on a New Year's Eve that you used to see.
Well, not on a night like this. I was fighting through that crowd a few moments ago, and one policeman told me it's raining about 39 degrees in New York right now, but nobody really cares. They're here for a moment of history.
Bang, that's cherry bombs. That's the style of 1968. They started that last year. Kids bring cherry bombs and firecrackers.
And every time one goes off, the crowd goes even wilder.
Now, wait till you hear midnight and you can't believe the surge of sound. Look over there, that black pit there. That's where the Hotel Astor used to be. Now it's an excavated hole in New York's terrain where they're going to put up a great big office building. We used to do our shows there on New Year's Eve every year from the Hotel Astor marquee.
And it's a memory of a once famous landmark.
And it's a sign of the times. Everything's changing here in New York. It's moving. The young people are moving. The age is moving. Sociological change. That's the story of what a strange and difficult year this has been. Crowned as it was, Jim, this year of 1968, by just a week ago, 3 great astronauts saluting us from the moon.
A magnificent example of a man's conquest of the unknown. Of course, President Johnson's decision not to run again, the assassinations of Robert Kennedy and Martin Luther King, the return of the Pueblo crew members. Many, many things happened in 1968.
And an orderly election. But now you take care of this microphone, Jim. I'm going up to visit another part of our NBC network.
Thank you, Ben Grauer. Good news from Vietnam in the final hours of 1968. The Viet Cong turned over 3 American prisoners to U.S. representatives on a riverbank 50 miles northwest of Saigon. Let's hope it'll be a good new year. This is Jim Harriott, and we'll be back to greet 1969 from Times Square in New York City later on. But for now, stay tuned as NBC's all-star parade of bands continues. Coming up, the Glenn Miller Orchestra under the direction of Buddy DeFranco on the NBC Radio Network. This is Jim Harriott speaking to you from Times Square in New York City, as if you couldn't hear it. From 42nd Street on my left, sweeping all the way up to 45th or 46th Street. You can't see any blacktop except for an island right in the middle of this surging crowd of humanity. And they're waiting for one thing, the end of this old year and to help ring in the new. There's some pushing and shoving, but it's a happy crowd, lots of horns. A rocket went up a moment. There goes another one. We're on the 4th floor of the Claridge Hotel. That one went up to about at least the 7th floor. Truly the rocket's red glare here in the final waning moments of 1968. It had been raining earlier. It looks as if the rain has stopped. Temperature in the high 30s. It will get windy and much colder and clear up later on. On this night of all nights for going out on the town, one of New York's most famous nightclubs is closed. The Latin Quarter shut down. Its chorus girls are on strike. They want more money. Another strike in New York, just the thing we need in the waning hours of 1968. The searchlight is in place, sweeping up to that mammoth lighted ball atop what is now the Allied Chemical Tower. It's about 100 feet above the top of the building itself. And when that ball descends, it touches on 1969, a big sign up there, and that means the year will be officially here. I might mention that New York's Mayor John Lindsay will join the traditional Times Square welcome to the new year tonight through a filmed message projected on the huge electronic screen overlooking Times Square, addressed to the thousands expected in the square from all parts of the nation, and they're there. For the moment of midnight, the message reads, "As mayor, I join my fellow New Yorkers in extending to you best wishes for peace, happiness, and prosperity in 1969. Now, it will flash across the screen at the precise moment of the arrival of the new year, signaled by the 22-foot-long digital clock below the screen. That clock is pulsed by signals transmitted by telephone lines from the U.S. Naval Observatory. The message concludes with an animated electronic simulation of the mayor's signature being written out. The final moments of 1968, and now there is a surge within the crowd right in front of us here. It's hard to tell what's going on, just a little late evening exuberance apparently. One fellow's holding up a sign that reads simply, "Aaron." They're here, and they want to let the world know that they're here and that they welcome what they hope will be a prosperous and happy new year just minutes from now, a little over 2 minutes as a matter of fact, before 1969 makes its appearance. Incidentally, the idea of midnight signaling the departure of a bearded old gentleman carrying a scythe and hourglass and the appearance of a chubby infant wearing a diaper began in Greek mythology. The Greek god Cronus, or Old Father Time, and the New Year baby may be as old as Father Time. During the ancient Greek festival of Dionysus, a baby was paraded as a symbol of rebirth. So, we are about to welcome a brand new year. We hope a good one for you and yours here in Times Square in New York City. It's been a very eventful year, 1968. The spectacular flight of Apollo 8, President Johnson's decision not to run again, the assassinations of Robert Kennedy and Martin Luther King, the release of the Pueblo crewmen, and now word came just hours ago that the Viet Cong have released 3 American prisoners in Vietnam. Good news to begin this new year. As the crowd surges forward to get a better look at that glowing ball atop the Allied Chemical Tower, let's bring in my colleague and veteran of many of these celebrations, Ben Grauer.
I'd say there are 75,000 people here, despite the rain and the sleet. Are the balls moving? It's starting to move. It's starting slowly. There's a flying skyrocket that's gone up. Someone sent up a Roman candle that's adding luster to the scene as the crowd picks up its scream of farewell to the old and hail to the new. A ball of fire has descended into the crowd. Someone shot off a rocket and it's burning on the ground. I don't think anyone's going to be badly hurt. Maybe a little burn or two here and there. Just a sign of the expression of glory and joy and happiness to get rid of the old and greet the new with vigor. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, to go. 1969. Outpouring from 1,000,000 throats as they're saying goodbye to the old and now welcome to a new year of hope, to a new year of challenges for our nation and for the world. But these kids don't care for any of those abstractions. They're just glad to be here. In about 5 minutes it's going to be deserted, but this is a typical New York greeting of New Year's Eve There's the scene as 1969 is just 1 minute old.
Thank you, Ben Grauer. I might mention that flare you mentioned a few moments ago that dropped from several floors up into the crowd apparently hurt no one. Police quickly put it out as someone a little overly exuberant wanted to celebrate the incoming new year in a spectacular way. It is 1969. It is flashed in prominent numerals here on the Allied Chemical Tower in Times Square. The ball has dropped, a new year has begun, and we hope it will be a good new year for you. Thousands upon thousands of people in Times Square, as you can hear it. The rain has stopped. It's getting colder, but not to that exuberant crowd outside. This is Jim Harriott wishing you a happy, prosperous, and peaceful new year. Now we go to the Rainbow Grill here in New York City, where the New Christie Minstrels continue NBC's All-Star Parade of Bands.